Hello, College Algebra. I just wanted to make a quick video to show you that I went through in the notes. They should back up for you online at the link that's on MyFire, and finish some of these just in case you wanted them as you tried to finish them up at home. I left this one over here for you. There's the answer. You should get 34. I left it for you to go ahead and try yourself. That's a good one to try because it kind of goes along with what I'm about to talk about. You should notice a connection between it and the ones I'm about to do. So when you get to these ones with fractions, your ultimate goal is to simply have nothing complex, nothing imaginary in the denominator. You want a real denominator. And the way you do this is you multiply both the top and bottom by the denominator, but with a negative sign for I. In other words, you're making the imaginary part the negative of what it was. So here we have 4 minus 5i in the denominator, and we're going to multiply by 4 plus 5i in the denominator. This is called the complex conjugate. Okay? That's what that is. And when you multiply something by its complex conjugate, you essentially end up canceling out all of any of the complex numbers, and you end up with a real number, and then so that'll give us something real in the denominator. So as I do this one, I'm going to multiply by 4 plus 5i over 4 plus 5i. Okay? And so in the numerator, you just start foiling. You get 5 times 4, that's a 20. You get that 5 again times this 5, that's a 25i. Carry that i along. Then you do the 4i times 4, and you should get a 16i. And then you have a 4i times the 5i, and that's a plus 20i squared. Remember, that I squared is a negative 1. So instead of a plus 20, we really have a minus 20 there. So now we need to do the denominator. We have 4 times 4, that's 16. We're just foiling again. 4 times 5i, that's plus 20i. And then we do the 5i. Minus 5i times 4 is minus 20i. Okay, so we have a plus 20i and a minus 20i, so those are going to cancel. And then you have a minus 5i times a plus 5i, that's a minus 25i squared, where again that I squared is just a negative 1. So instead of minus 25 there, we're going to have a plus 25. So let's go through here. This is a 25 plus 16 should give us 41i, and then this 20 is actually minus 20. So we have 20 minus 20, those are going to cancel. In the denominator, we already canceled out the 20i and the minus 20i, and what we're left with is 16 minus 25. And so 16, or not minus 20, we have 16, and we have a minus negative I, so that's 16 plus 25. All right, so that gives us a 41i, and then 16 plus 25 is, again, it's 41, and so that'll give us just I. Okay, and I'm going to move this up here just a little bit because I kind of wrote down on top of what I wanted there. But what you end up with is this 41i over 41, and you just get an I for the answer there. And so I'm not going to do the next one for you, but what are you going to multiply by? Well, in the denominator, you have 2 plus 3i. You're going to multiply by 2 minus 3i, that complex conjugate. Okay, 2 minus 3i over 2 minus 3i. And then you should be able to go through and get something where you don't have any imaginary numbers in the denominator. Okay, one last thing, when you're going to work on this page, you need to remember that you cannot take the square root of a negative number. So before you do any of this, the first thing you need to do is change these square roots of negatives into imaginary numbers that have i's on them. Okay, so for example, if you have something like square root of negative 5 times square root of negative 5, if you have that, the first thing you're going to want to do, other than writing it a little more neatly than I did, is you're going to want to make this I times the square root of 5 times I times the square root of 5. You're going to get rid of those negatives that are inside and bring the I out front. Then what you end up doing is multiplying I times I, that's I squared, and square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. So you have I squared times 5, and I squared is negative 1, so this is just negative 5, and that would be correct. This is the correct way. What you don't want to do is take this and say, all right, square root of negative 5 times square root of negative 5. You don't want to make it square root of negative 5 times negative 5 like that, because what you'll end up with is the square root of negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. And you'll end up with just square root of 25 is 5, and you'll get the wrong answer. So don't do it that way. Make sure you're treating these as imaginary numbers. So for example, on this first one here, if I go through, I want to change this to I times the square root of 9 minus I times the square root of 49. Okay? And then square root of 9 is 3, so this is a 3I. Square root of 49 is 7. So I have 3 minus 7, which is going to give me negative 4, and then carry the I along. So negative 4I is going to be my answer there. And then I'm going to skip down here and do the last one, so try these ones in the middle. And down here on this last one, I don't want to just multiply this on through. I want to make this first I times the square root of 12 times the quantity I times the square root of 3 minus the square root of 12. There's nothing to do with the square root of 12 because there's no negative inside the square root or inside the radical. So then what I want to do is go ahead and distribute this I times the square root of 12 through. And so I have I square root of 12 times I square root of 3. That's I squared, and 12 times 3 is 36, so square root of 36. And then I want to multiply this I square root of 12 times the negative, or times the negative square root of 12 there. And so this is minus I, and then square root of 12 times square root of 12. Well, square root of 12 times square root of 12 is square root of 12 squared, which is just 12, okay? So this is just going to be a 12, right? Anytime you're, this is square root of 12 squared, right? And so that's just undoes it, it's just 12. And so we have this here, and then at this point, I squared, that's a negative 1. So I have a negative square root of 36, which is 6, minus 12I. And that's your answer for that one. Okay? So I hope this helps. Try to finish going through, do these other ones here, and of course keep working on your homework, and use your resources if you get stuck, you need more help. Hit up ACE, hit up the tutoring, and if all else fails, just come see me if you're starting to fall further behind. But make sure you're staying caught up with this and keep going. Okay? All right, see y'all later.